Welcome to Taste China Learn English. For today's deep dive, I want you to imagine a chef standing in a really busy, steaming kitchen.
Oh, yeah, one of those kitchens with just massive pots everywhere.
Exactly. And the chef isn't just, rolling dough with a pin. They are stretching it with their bare hands. They're pulling it wide, folding it over, and then just pulling it again.
This looks like a workout, right?
It really is. The dough is literally bouncing and stretching like a giant rubber band. It slaps against this floured metal counter in this, I don't know, almost hypnotic rhythm.
Yeah, it's a highly kinetic, honestly, kind of aggressive process. And that specific scene, that chef just wrestling physics and gluten into submission, that is the heartbeat of an ordinary morning in Lanzhou.
Right, which is the capital of China's Gansu province, sitting right on the banks of the Yellow River.
Yeah. And today, we are taking you straight into that kitchen.
We are, and our source material today is actually really fascinating. It was originally designed to teach English vocabulary words by mapping them onto regional Chinese food culture.
Which is such a cool way to learn, honestly.
It really is. But we aren't just using it as a simple dictionary today. We want to look at this through the lens of linguistic relativity.
Which is basically the idea that the specific words we use actually shape our reality, right?
Exactly. We're exploring how assigning highly specific, descriptive English vocabulary to our food can actually change our physiological experience of eating it.
It's a really profound way to look at culinary culture.
Mm.
I mean, when you have a precise vocabulary for things like texture or heat or aroma, you don't just consume the food, you decode it.
Yes, you demand a higher level of culinary engineering because you literally have the words to articulate exactly what is happening on your palate.
So let's test that theory right at the start of the day. According to our source, a day in Lanzhou just does not officially begin without one very specific, totally non-negotiable ritual.
Beef noodles.
Beef noodles. But there is a massive cultural faux pas you want to avoid here if you ever visit.
Right. If you're an outsider, you might be tempted to call it Lanzhou Lamian.
Oh, do not call it that in Lanzhou. Like, if you walk into a local spot and order Lanzhou Lamian, you are immediately marking yourself as a tourist.
You'll probably get a few eye rolls.
Oh, definitely. Because to the people who live there, the concept of Lanzhou is already implied. You don't need to say it. It is simply beef noodles or mian.
It's not some fancy specialty item. It's a baseline daily necessity for the entire city to function.
Yeah, necessity is the perfect word.
But looking at how this dish is actually constructed, calling it a baseline almost feels like an understatement. Like when I read the breakdown of a proper bowl of Lanzhou beef noodles, I didn't see a recipe.
What did you see?
I saw an architectural blueprint. There is this strict, completely unyielding formula that the source calls the five-color code.
Oh, the visual engineering of this dish is just incredible. And that code is absolute. You literally cannot skip a step.
Right, you need one clear, two white, three red, four green, and five yellow.
Every single bowl must hit those five visual and chemical markers to be considered authentic.
So let's break down the mechanics of that vocabulary, starting with one clear, which refers to the broth.
The foundation of the whole bowl.
Right. And the source notes that this broth is simmered for hours and hours with beef bones and this highly guarded blend of secret spices.
Yep. Every shop has their own secret mix.
But wait, here's my question. If you boil beef bones for 8 hours, how on earth does the liquid stay perfectly clear? Because usually bone broths turn out super cloudy and opaque.
Like a Japanese tonkotsu ramen, right?
Exactly. That's milky white. So how is this one clear?
Well, that is exactly where the culinary precision comes in.
Hmm.
And precise is one of our key vocabulary words today. A cloudy broth happens because of emulsification.
Okay, break that down for us. What is emulsification?
So when water is at a rolling, violent boil, the physical agitation forces the fat and the dissolved proteins from the bones to basically crash together and bind.
Ah, so they mix permanently.
Right, it creates a milky suspension. But the chefs in Lanzhou, achieve that one clear rule through incredibly meticulous temperature control. They keep these massive vats of broth at a bare, gentle simmer.
So it never actually reaches a rolling boil.
Never. It's basically thermal management.
Yeah.
They're extracting all the collagen and flavor without physically agitating the fats into an emulsion.
Wow, so they also have to constantly skim the surface, right?
Yeah, so they skim off any impurities, and what you are left with is this liquid that is totally packed with gelatin and rich beef flavor, but it looks as clear as a cup of morning tea.
That is amazing. Okay, so that brings us to two white, which refers to these pristine, really thin slices of white radish floating in the clear broth.
And then we immediately hit 3 red, which is the chili oil.
And this isn't just about adding heat, is it?
No, not at all. It's about adding a vibrant, glossy layer of fat to the surface of the soup.
Which naturally requires the immediate balance of 4 green.
Yes. The chefs aggressively scatter fresh green cilantro and chopped green garlic sprouts right over the top.
And there's a reason for that beyond just looking nice. The alkaline bite of those raw green herbs cuts right through the heavy fat of the chili oil.
It keeps the aroma bright and fresh, rather than feeling heavy or greasy.
And finally, anchoring all of this is 5 yellow, which refers to the fresh, hand-pulled noodles. And the level of customization here is just staggering.
It really is.
A
Because the dough is stretched to order, like right in front of you, you can request your noodles to be as thin as a single strand of hair.
Or as wide and flat as a leaf.
Right. And our source uses 2 very specific English words to describe the target texture of these yellow noodles: elastic and chewy.
And in the context of Lanzhou noodles, those aren't just casual adjectives, they are strict structural requirements.
Absolutely.
So explain the physics behind that. How do they actually get regular wheat flour to act like a stretchy rubber band?
No, it comes down to chemistry again. Traditionally, Lanzhou noodle makers use an alkaline agent called penghu.
Which is an ash, right?
Yep, it's an ash derived from a specific plant that grows in the arid local deserts. And when you add this highly alkaline substance to the dough, it alters the pH level.
Okay, and what does that do to the flour?
It completely changes the behavior of the gluten proteins in the wheat. It tightly binds their bonds together.
So the gluten matrix becomes incredibly dense.
It becomes a superstructure, honestly. That's what gives the dough its elastic quality.
The ability to be stretched to the width of a hair without snapping.
Exactly. And then when you finally bite into it, that tightened gluten network physically fights back against your teeth. That is the chewy factor.
It doesn't just yield easily, it has a firm, satisfying snap to it.
Which is a perfect example of linguistic relativity. Because they have isolated these specific textural concepts, elasticity and chewiness, they actively seek out the chemical means, like that alkaline ash, to achieve them.
It's literally a bowl of soup that operates on strict scientific principles.
It is absolute precision masking as everyday comfort food.
I love that. Okay, so we have this meticulous, delicate, 5-color masterpiece for breakfast. But as we move later into the day, our source introduces us to a dining experience that feels wildly different.
Oh, it's violently opposite.
We go from this highly codified noodle soup to something called Schnuzzoyang, which translates to hand-grasped mutton.
Yeah, and the name itself signals a completely different physiological experience. Mutton, of course, being sheep meat.
And true to the name, you completely abandon chopsticks for this.
You do. You eat these large cuts of bone-in meat entirely with your bare hands.
The source describes the preparation as almost remarkably primitive. Like, the meat is literally just chopped up and boiled. That's it. Boiled mutton.
It sounds so simple.
Too simple, maybe, because I have to push back here. On paper, this sounds like a digestive nightmare.
Why do you say that?
Well, the source notes that this fatty boiled sheep meat is served with absolutely nothing but a little salt and whole cloves of raw peeled garlic.
Oh, yes. The raw garlic.
Eating giant hunks of heavy animal fat and then biting straight into raw garlic. That sounds incredibly aggressive, both for your stomach and, frankly, your breath.
Look, I completely agree with you if we were talking about standard grocery store lamb. On paper, it sounds totally unrefined.
It sounds super heavy.
It does. But this is where we have to look at the regional biology and the chemistry of flavor pairing. The magic of this dish actually starts with the sheep themselves.
Okay, so what's different about the sheep in Gansu province?
Gansu has this very arid, rugged landscape, and the soils are actually slightly alkaline. So the local sheep forage on these specific wild desert herbs and drink from mineral-rich waters
Which changes how they taste.
dramatically. A lot of people claim they hate mutton because it tastes gamey. That's another key vocabulary word for us today, gamey.
Right, gamey meaning that wild, sort of musty barnyard flavor that just coats the roof of your mouth. It's super polarizing.
But that gamey flavor isn't actually inherent to all sheep. It comes from specific branch chain fatty acids that build up in the animal's fat over time.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And because of their unique diet and the alkaline environment in the Northwest, Lanzhou mutton has incredibly low levels of these fatty acids.
So it doesn't have that funk at all.
None. When the chefs boil it, and again, they use careful temperature control so as not to oxidize the remaining fats, it yields this remarkably pure, sweet, and clean-tasting meat.
Okay, so the meat itself is pure, and because it's boiled slowly, the collagen breaks down, making it literally fall off the bone.
It is incredibly tender.
But you still haven't justified the raw garlic to me. Why attack such a pure, tender piece of meat with something so harsh?
Because of a chemical compound called allicin.
Allison.
Yes, when you bite into a raw clove of garlic, you are physically crushing its cells together, and that reaction creates allicin. It's the chemical responsible for garlic's intense burning heat.
The stuff that literally makes your eyes water.
Exactly. Now think about eating fatty mutton. The lipids coat your tongue and your palate in this slick, heavy layer.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Your mouth gets totally coated.
Right, and if you just ate the meat by itself, your palate would be completely exhausted after maybe 3 bites. Flavor fatigue would set in.
Because it's just too rich.
Exactly. But when you chase that bite of meat with raw garlic, the allicin acts almost like a chemical solvent. It violently strips that lipid coating right off your tongue.
Wow, so it's a palate cleanser acting in real time.
It really is.
That is fascinating. It's like using a highly abrasive sponge to clean a greasy cast iron pan, but it's happening inside your mouth.
That is such a great way to visualize it. The sharp, volatile heat of the garlic resets your taste buds, and that allows you to experience the rich, sweet tenderness of the very next bite of mutton as if it were your first bite.
That completely changes how I view the word contrast. It's not just putting two visually different tastes on a plate, it's creating a literal chemical reaction that makes the meal physically possible to finish.
Which is exactly why people who swear they don't like lamb will sit at a table in Lanzhou, strip this meat off the bone with their teeth, bite into a raw garlic clove, and suddenly understand the culinary genius of the Northwest.
All right, you've convinced me. I am sold on the primitive genius of hand-grasped mutton.
I knew you would be.
But let's be honest about human biology for a second. If you have just consumed a massive platter of heavy animal fat, protein, and raw garlic, your body is going to send out a distress signal.
Oh, for sure. You are going to aggressively crave something to settle your stomach.
Which perfectly brings us to the Zending Road night market. This is where the entire city goes to decompress after the intense, savory onslaught of the day.
Your digestive system demands a reset, and the night market delivers.
It does. And the source introduces us to the ultimate night market closer. It's a dessert called Nyongyi Jidan Liaozo.
Which translates to milk and egg fermented glutinous rice.
Right, and when I first read the English ingredient list for this, it sounded like pure chaos. It genuinely sounds like someone just blindly emptying their pantry into a pot.
Let's hear the list.
Okay, we have hot milk, whisked egg, raisins, crushed peanuts, toasted sesame seeds, and fermented glutinous rice. And all of this is boiled up in a single bowl over a massive open flame.
It does sound completely haphazard, like a total kitchen sink approach to making a dessert.
How does a chaotic mix like that not just taste like a confused mess?
Because every single ingredient in that bowl serves a distinct, highly functional purpose designed to rescue your digestive system.
Okay, break that down. Let's start with the base.
First, consider the fermented glutinous rice. The process of fermentation produces probiotics and very gentle enzymes, specifically one called amylase.
And what does amylase do?
It actively helps your stomach break down all the heavy proteins and fats you just consumed at dinner.
So it's not just a sweet dessert, it's literally a digestive aid, like an internal reset button.
It really is. And then you have the texture. We talked earlier about having the right vocabulary to understand food. The source uses the English word granular to describe this soup.
Granular, meaning it's composed of tiny, distinct particles. Right.
The fermented rice grains maintain their shape in the soup, providing these soft, granular little pops of texture.
But the liquid surrounding them is milk and egg.
Exactly.
Huh.
Because it's enriched with the fats from the milk and the proteins from the whisked egg, the broth itself is incredibly smooth and velvety.
So you have this brilliant textural friction going on. You have a smooth liquid carrying these granular bites.
It's a very soothing texture, which is another one of our vocab words.
Huh.
Soothing. It's exactly what a tired palate needs at the end of the day.
But I imagine hot milk and fermented rice could easily become overwhelmingly sweet or, like, cloying.
That is where the pantry dumping aspect proves its genius. The toasted sesame seeds and peanuts bring this roasted, earthy crunch to break up the rich liquid.
Okay, but what about the raisins?
Ah, the true secret weapon. The ingredient that ties the entire chaotic bowl together is the raisins.
Really? The raisins, they seem like such an afterthought.
They are the linchpin of the whole dessert. The source highlights their tangy quality, tangy being our final vocab word.
Tangy, meaning having a strong, sharp, slightly sour flavor.
Exactly. Raisins contain naturally concentrated malic and tartaric acids. When you're drinking a warm, sweet, milky, heavy broth, your palate naturally starts to get bored.
It gets fatigued again.
Right. But then you bite into a swollen hot raisin and it releases this sharp, tangy burst of acidity.
Ah, I see. So it's doing the exact same job in the dessert that the raw garlic did for the mutton.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got it. It's obviously a much gentler version, but the mechanics are identical. The tangy acidity cuts the heavy sweetness, jolting your palate awake so the milk continues to taste rich rather than suffocating.
It is incredible how consistent the underlying culinary philosophy is here. I mean, whether it's the green garlic sprouts cutting the chili oil in the morning noodles,
Oh, the raw garlic slicing through the fatty mutton.
or the tangy raisins piercing the sweet milk at midnight. The food of Lanzhou is built entirely on the science of contrast.
They have absolutely mastered the art of pushing the human palate to its absolute limit and then providing the exact chemical compound needed to bring it back to baseline.
It's just brilliant. Let's step back and look at this journey we took today. We started with the morning necessity of beef noodles.
Exploring how precise temperature control creates a clear broth and how alkaline chemistry creates a gluten network that is physically elastic and chewy.
Then we moved to the rugged, frankly brilliant sophistication of hand-grasped mutton.
Learning how the local environment eliminates gamey flavors and how the aggressive allicin in raw garlic mechanically strips animal fat from the palate.
And we ended up in the chaotic warmth of the night market, utilizing the granular texture of fermented rice and the tangy acid of raisins as a biological reset button.
It really is a masterclass in using flavor as a functional tool.
It is. And it brings me right back to the core premise of our source material today, this idea of linguistic relativity. We spent this entire deep dive utilizing highly specific English words. Precise, Elastic, chewy, gamey, granular, seething, and tangy.
Words that don't just describe what the food looks like, but actually explain how the food works.
Exactly. Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Think about how the presence of a specific word actually changes your reality.
Because when you actively understand the concept of tangy acidity acting as a palate cleanser, you start looking for it.
You do. You start noticing the hidden architecture of your food. So the question is, does having the exact vocabulary word actually heighten your physical senses? If you lack the word for a texture, do you experience it less intensely?
That's a really profound question. Do we literally only taste what we can articulate?
It's something to think about. So the next time you sit down to eat your absolute favorite local dish, the one you've had 100 times, I challenge you to decode it.
Deconstruct the bowl. Name the unseen forces at work.
Ask yourself, what is the unspoken chemical rule for eating it perfectly? What provides the contrast? And if you had to explain the mechanics of that sensory experience to a total stranger, what exact words would you use?
It'll totally change how you eat.
Well, that is all the time we have for today's exploration. If you enjoyed this journey through the science, the language, and the vibrant flavors of Lanzhou, please take a second to hit the like button.
And definitely share this deep dive with a friend who appreciates the deeper mechanics of a good meal.
And make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you never miss our next adventure on Taste China Learn English.
Thank you so much for joining us on this culinary decoding session.
And the next time you see a simple bowl of food, remember that chef stretching the dough. Remember the precision, the chemistry, and the absolute mastery of physics hiding just beneath the surface of your soup. Keep your mind curious and your stomach full. We'll see you next time.